Hello, Wolfpack fans, and welcome to the second 2018 edition of Wolfpack Watch. I'm your host, Doug Wood, and with me, as usual, Coach Jim Bob Bryant. Coach Bryant, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate you having me.
We're here to recap last week's scrimmage game versus Hiram and look forward to our first regular scheduled game here in the Den Friday night against the Paulding County Patriots. Let's just start off with this, Coach, your early impressions of what happened on Friday night before we get into any specifics.
Well, going into a scrimmage with a bunch of young players, we saw some really good things out of some kids, and then we saw some really bad things. To top off, we've got to cut down. Well, we had over 150 yards in penalties. I mean, it's tough to win when you have 150 yards in penalties, and we scored a couple touchdowns that they called back, and it's just different things that we can fix on our end, that we can be more disciplined, and I'll take the responsibility for that. So we've been focusing on that more in practice this week. Been focusing on the two things that's going to win and lose football games, which is blocking and tackling. Hiram is a seasoned team. They've got 30 seniors, and I'm glad that we get a chance to play them because that gives us a good test going into the regular season.
Speaking of the youth of this football team, we talked about this in the last episode where you're replacing, 9 players on the offensive side and 7 to 9 players on the defensive side. How hard is it to get these young players to understand what their roles and responsibilities are within the team concept, knowing that they now have to step up this year?
Yeah, well, we talked to the guys the other night after the game, and we had 42 players that was the first time they ever stepped foot on the field for varsity football. And that's good. That's good for down the road, but playing in the region that we do and the non-conference schedule that we do, we need these young kids to grow up quick. So, that's why we want to scrimmage somebody like Hiram that's got a bunch of seniors that's been playing together for 3 years, to get our young guys, accustomed to playing and playing fast on Friday nights. Going forward, I mean, those young guys grew up a lot Friday night, and, I expect to see a much different team take the field this Friday night versus Paulding County.
Regarding the line of scrimmage that you were talking about, blocking and tackling, it appeared that we struggled, especially on the offensive side, to block. Ross was running for his life. In fact, I think Ross had the most rushing yards of anybody on the team, if I have been told the stats correctly. And in the defensive side, we did get some pressure on occasion, but we didn't get a lot of pressure. Talk about that as it relates to what you want to see going forward. Obviously, I know you want us to improve, but it seems like we've got a big, giant step to take in both sides.
We do, and that's the things that we've talked about that we need to be able to do to be successful is we have to be able to run the football, and we've got to be able to stop the run. And those are our two glaring weaknesses right now. Well, let's not say weaknesses, let's just say that those are the two things that we've got to work on the most. We're really skilled at the receiver position, and so we can throw the football. Ross can throw the football really well, but we have to be able to run the football to keep teams from just pinning their ears back and just blitzing us like Hiram does. Hiram's a 3-3 stack, and they bring pressure from all over, and they do a great job doing that. But we've got to figure out a way to run the ball and run the ball successfully, as well as on defense. We've got to figure out a way to stop the run. If we can do those two things, then we'll be successful every Friday night.
Speaking of the receivers that you say that we have, I thought they did an outstanding job. They were all over the place. They've got a lot of energy. Ross can hit them on a dime, it appears. Talk about that group. I want to give some props here and do some positives with this episode and not focus on the downside. Talk about that group and how they did Friday night.
Well, we're 3 deep at receiver. So at each wide receiver position, we're able to play. I think the other night we played 12 varsity receivers in the first half. So what that allows us to do with those guys having a similar skill set and being able to run, catch, and block is we're able to play 4 one series and then play a new 4 the next series so we can keep our legs fresh going into the second half. Our starting 4 receivers right now, that could change every week. We don't really have a starting 4. We have, all right, this group goes now, next group goes the next series, next group goes the next series. We letter our receivers. We have an X, Y, Z, and H. And our Z, we had 3 different Zs play the game, and all 3 of them caught touchdowns Friday night, which is the guys that we kind of set up. They're more of our H-back, blocking type, short route runners, catch the ball good in traffic, but those 3 guys had 3 really big games Friday night. And then our outside receivers, Our X's and our Y's did a really good job of running their routes, and then our H's are our speed guys. Those are the guys that we try to get the ball on the perimeter with jet sweeps and bubble screens, and those guys have come a long ways too. So I think out of that whole group, I think we're losing 3 guys, 3 kids that are seniors in that group. So 9 of them will be back next year.
And then I just want to call out the one play. You talked about the fake punt in the first half, right at the end of the first half. That did you guys go into the game plan with the thought that you might run that, or did the situation just sort of dictate it based on what you saw going on in the game? It was a beautiful pass by Brock. I'm not exactly sure who it was intended for because there were 2 receivers in the area.
That's right.
But Zion caught it and took it to the house. Talk about that play a little bit.
We had put in a fake punt that week, and we told them at some time during the game Friday night that we were going to fake a punt, whether it's on our own side of the field or their side of the field, that we were going to fake a punt to practice it and to get it on tape, And we had run that fake punt 4 times in practice, and Brock hadn't completed any of them. So then I looked at him when I caught it, and his eyes got big as saucers, and then he threw it, and he was throwing it. Zion crossed the field, and he was supposed to be underneath him, but he was over top of him and caught it and made the play, and then scored it, and outran the defenders to the end zone. But Brock made a good pass, and Zion made a great catch, and then outran everybody, and that helped us going into halftime.
Unfortunately, the scoreboard says we lost that game. Thankfully, it's a scrimmage. It's not in the win-loss column. Friday night here in the Den against Paulding County, that's when we start the win-loss column. Talk about the Paulding County game. What have you guys seen on tape from them? What are you guys focusing on? Do they have a good defense? Do they have a good offense? Talented players? Tell us about them.
Well, they're similar to us, and they graduated a lot of guys last year, so they're a very young team as well. They've got some key seniors in key spots like we do. But as a whole, they're a young team like we are. They're talented. They've got a lot of speed, a lot of team speed. They have a really good scheme on defense, and then they do a really good job on offense. Coach Spence and his staff does a great job, and we look forward to the challenge of playing them Friday night.
Yeah, Paulding County we played them traditionally each year. One year going out there, them coming here every year as we rotate through the Paulding County teams. And traditionally, we have handled them, and that's not to say that that's what's going to happen Friday night. But what's the mindset of the kids going into this game? I assume they're super excited to have a real game going into there. There's no more scrimmages, no more practices. It's time to go at it and get this and try to get a win here in the Den.
Well, we tell our kids that what we want to do is we want to get better every day, and we want to get better every week, and we want to get better each season going forward. And what I like about scrimmages, and I never like to lose in anything that we're doing, but I like the fact that our kids had some adversity put on them, and we put some more adversity on them yesterday at practice. So we're trying to teach these kids how to overcome adversity, no matter what the score is in the game, that we always have a chance to come back and win with the type of offense that we run. They're excited about having a chance to play their first regular season game at home against Paulding County, and we've got one of our players that's really excited to play Paulding County that was on that team last year that moved here this year. So we're excited about a chance to play those guys, and hopefully we'll play much better than what we did this past Friday night.
Speaking of that individual, and we don't have to bring him up by name, but is he going to be cleared? I know he was injured. Is he going to be ready for Friday night?
Yes, he's cleared. He's about 85% right now. But if he was 60%, he was going to try to play this game.
Sure
So he's had a good 2 days of practice. So hopefully he can get on the field and play some meaningful minutes for us Friday night.
Your first game here, and I know we did the inter-squad game the previous week, but this was your first game against an opponent here in the Den with the fans. Hiram didn't bring a lot of fans, but they had quite a few over there. Did you feel the energy from the crowd, from the student section? Tell us about what your first experience was in a scrimmage-type game here at the Den.
Well, it was loud. I mean, at the other schools I've been at, we've had a track that goes around our field, and that separates us from the stands. And here, the stands are right on top of you. So, I don't really hear a lot of background noise during the game because I'm focused on everything that's going on. But I could tell that it was really loud at times because our players were struggling to hear us when we were coaching them on the sideline. And we're pretty loud as coaches, and they were still struggling to hear us. So, I mean, that's good. I mean, that's a good energy to have. And, our student section and our fans did a great job the other night. And, we hope they'll come back out and support us this week.
This week it's going to be even bigger because typically the scrimmage crowd is, smaller and we build up. So Paulding County, we're going to have quite a few people out there. I assume the team and you are going to feed off that energy in the game?
Oh, yeah. Anytime you play at home, then you want to win and you want to have a chance to play well in front of your home crowd. And that's what I told the guys. It'll be your first home game, really, that stakes are high. At the end of this game, you're 0-1 or you're 1-0. So the scrimmage game. When we took our starters out after the first series of the third quarter, let our JV guys play a little bit, and our starters wanted to stay in and play. They want a chance to come back and win, but those JV guys need to get some reps too. Those younger kids, because they've been working just as hard as our varsity has.
This week, as we said, 7:30 here in the Den, our first regular season home game against the Paulding County Patriots. A week from then, we'll be at South Paulding as we continue our Paulding rotation. We look forward to a big raucous crowd here Friday night. There is one thing, and Coach, I'm not going to quiz you on this, but I will make a statement in relation to some of the social media posts that I've seen in relation to this subject. A lot of people are complaining about the black jerseys that were worn on Friday night in the scrimmage and how they match up with the East Paulding scheme and how disrespectful that is to the North Paulding program. Let me just say, as someone who has a little bit of knowledge of that, there's a lot more to the story than you realize, and you shouldn't criticize the current coaching staff that we have, the booster club that we have, nor the players. That was a sort of a one-time thing. We might wear them again in the future. I think they look great. They're not East Paulding colors. They're a charcoal gray with blue numbers, and that's North Paulding's colors. And I say more power to you, Coach. So you don't have to address it because I don't want you to, but I'm just giving all those who are watching out there, there's more to the story that you know, and just realize that what you don't know, all I can say is we'll move forward, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're not changing the school colors.
No,
it's
we're
an
not.
alternate jersey. And right now we have 6 different uniform combinations, and we look to add a different set of pants and a different color jersey each year. So when, eventually when we play, the month of October, breast cancer awareness. I mean, pink is not in our school colors either, but, we're going to wear some pink in our uniforms. And then military appreciation, digital camouflage is not in our color palette, but we may wear that some as well, too. So, it's something that we're not going to use every game. We have our traditional colors, which is navy blue and silver, but, we will add some different colors in there and some different jerseys as an alternate jersey each week, so we can have different uniform combinations just like every major college in the country does.
So with that, I guarantee you when we play East Paulding in the Den here in 3 weeks, we won't be wearing our black jerseys. We'll be in traditional blue, and we will be taking on our biggest rival. With that being said, Coach, I thank you for joining us this week.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for joining us this week. We'll be back next week to review the opening game against Paulding County and preview the South Paulding game the following week. Thanks again.
Go Pack.